I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackYou.com, and today we're going to install a set of Hotbodies race bodywork on a 2011 to 2018 Suzuki GSX-R600 for $750. Installing race bodywork is going to be one of the most challenging modifications you're going to make to your sport bike. If you've made that jump from street riding to track riding and you've committed to race fairings, this isn't like changing a lever or a slip-on exhaust. This takes actual mechanical experience. This video is going to help you, if you don't have a ton of experience, take this product and get a great end result, just like I've gotten here. This Suzuki, this model has been around, like I said, since 2011, all the way into 2018. So this procedure is going to help you get it installed on this bike and get a kick-ass end result. This kit that's on here, this is my man Jimmy's bike. This is also another episode of how do you get your boss to work on your bike for free, right? Installing race bodywork. He was pretty pumped about that. But he bought this kit during the sale that we had in the off season, just like anybody else would. It showed up to the shop, it sat here until I had time to do it. We did it and shot a video. And I want to now go over the end result I achieved, and then I will show you step by step. I'll take the bike apart and I'll show you what I did in each area to get this result. Okay, let's first cover the end result. Start off with one of the most challenging parts on the bike. This is the tail section. The lines are good, it fit really nice. We got the seat back on, the trim panel. Kind of come here under the undertail. That body line worked out real well. I added a fastener here and a hole. I'll show you how I did that. And I'm going to show you how I modified the subframe and the under tray so that we're able to get the tail on and off with relatively low effort. That was really a goal of mine up front, was to make it so Jimmy could get the tail on and off without a whole bunch of drama. We'll come now to the upper fairing and the lower. A great place to focus always is where the fairings meet. I'm going to show you how to install the deuce fasteners. This is really important, right, that you do that correctly, because if you don't, you can end up with big gaps, stuff way out of line. You can see the fit I've got back here. I use this mounting point, stock mounting point, 3 fasteners. Those are nice body lines in the end. I've got the air ducts installed. I actually have them captured. I've got the stock fastener here. Up in the very forward part of the fairing, what I did here is I drilled through the fairing, I drilled through the air duct, and I used a couple of zip ties to capture that in there. So between that fastener and these 2 cable ties that are basically hidden, the air ducts are going to stay in position. We're not going to have to jack around with those at all when we remove and reinstall the bodywork. New windscreen, you can see the body line that we got on that. Jimmy's got a set of driven mirror eliminators that he had on the street bike before. He's got those in place, so we're going to reuse those. The front fender, that fit excellent. I literally drilled every one of those holes just dead center, ran the fasteners through. The fasteners, these are what Jimmy had. The heads are way too small. He's got to get the stuff that he had at home, the OE fender mounts, because you don't want to use a bolt or a fastener with a head that small. You need something with a bigger, like a pan head, so you have more surface area, more clamping force. If you're putting the torque through the fiberglass with a fastener with a head that small, you're compressing it in such a small area. In the end, you're just going to end up damaging the fiberglass, so you don't want to do that. As a rule of thumb, you want to have the largest head on the fastener you can possibly use, okay? Check out the body line here. Once again, very nice OE mounting point there. Clutch cable, got that routed on top of the air duct and underneath the bodywork. Come back here, there's your mounting point there. There is one spot we're going to need to trim, and I didn't do it because I want to show it to you. It's going to be different for every bike too. Jimmy's got the full Acra system on this motorcycle, and you can see, man, he's just got a little bit of contact there. He's going to have to take that home and trim it himself. That's up to him, but literally Dremel that out, and you're going to have all the clearance you need. Okay, tools that I used for this, pretty basic stuff. One of the most important parts is the drill bits that you're going to use. Unibits, this is what I want you to use. This is the right stuff to be drilling through the fiberglass. They're stepped unibits. They do a great job. They're not going to blow the bodywork out. I purchased a 3-pack. I've probably had these for 15 years. They work great. Cordless drill, most people are going to have that in the house. I've got a couple of T-handles, some side cutters, basic 10 mil T-handle, Sharpie, that's really important. I needed a Phillips on this bike. Jimmy had a couple of weird screws in there. And then I had a cutoff wheel that I used to modify the plastic under tray in the tail section area. You wouldn't have to have a pneumatic cutoff wheel. You could use like a Dremel cutoff wheel. You could use a hacksaw, coping saw. That stuff's really easy to cut, but you're gonna need something to modify that undertail. Okay, the tail section is arguably the most challenging piece on most installations. And I'm gonna show you what I did here on this Suzuki to get a good on and off effort. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have to ram that thing on there so hard that you're damaging it. When you go to take it off, you're risking damage, because sooner or later you're going to have to be in here to do some type of service work. It's inevitable, right? Whether you're deep cleaning your bike or you've got some work that you're going to do. So here's the things that I did. There was a latch back here. Obviously it's a race bike, had no need for it. And this edge needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but that's Jimmy's problem. He'll have to do that later. I took a cutoff wheel and I whacked that down. The bolts that were in this brace, okay, they stood a lot taller. They had a hex head on them. There were 4 fasteners. Realistically, that's more than needs to be back here, in my opinion. You have this brace, you have this brace, there's a brace down there, and then of course it's bolted to the frame of the motorcycle. So there's multiple contact points. So I wanted as much, because this was a tough spot right here, kind of clearing this. So I wanted to create some space here. So I replaced 2 of the fasteners with these button heads that were very low profile. That helped out a bit. Also, I modified the stock under tray. I already showed you that the Hotbodies race bodywork, it has a nice body line that meets this right here. It's going to finish it off. So realistically, all this stuff here, you could take that off and throw it in the trash. I like to try and preserve as much as I can at the end of the day, in case you're going to need to put another module back here, whatever. So I recommend trying to leave that. So what I did is I trimmed off in all these areas here, okay? So I would not be fighting that on and off. Totally useless stuff, threw in the garbage. I then used a cable tie right back here to secure this. You can see I ran it through the 2 bolt holes that were in the stock subframe, passed it through here, it just kind of holds it up in place. At the end of the day, I also added a fastener here that attaches the race tail to this under tray, plus there's fasteners over here, so we've got plenty of stuff holding it on. Also important to note, there were 2 hooks right here that look a lot like this. If you want to come up here, Steve, I ground those off, one on this side, one on this side, and all that was done to get easier on and off effort with the tail, which I'm going to show you right now. Okay, the tail section, right? And you look at this, it's all one piece with Hotbodies, and you can see the hole that we need to stuff that whole subframe into. That is not gigantic, okay? So we want to do as much as we can. Remember, you're modifying the bike. This is a track-only bike at this point. So some of these little ears and tabs, they're totally unnecessary, and you want your end result to be good so that you can service the bike, you can install and remove the tail section without too much drama. Also important to note that after you've ridden it a bit, you've got it painted, it's been out in the sun, you've had it on and off a couple of times, you'll find that this stuff really loosens up quite a bit. As for the mounting holes, I drilled these 2 just dead center. You want to drill them large enough so that the fastener passes through and has a little bit of wiggle room, okay? I did not drill these 2 holes until I had this mounted on the bike so I could get a good idea of how well these 2 lined up. This, I drilled through here and drilled into that under tray once I had this mounted up on the bike so that everything lined up real good, and I used a Christmas tree fastener, which I'm going to show you. So now to install, obviously you want to slide this over. You're going to need to pull down on this just a little bit to get it started. And this is a tight fit. Even with the modifications that I made, this is absolutely a snug fit. So I'm going to pull down on that a little bit, put a little forward pressure. like so. And you want to keep an eye underneath to make sure that you're not catching on anything. Okay, and then just continue to work it forward, all the while making sure you've got nothing caught underneath. And once you get over the hump here, it's going to drop down into position. So if you have a Suzuki, you know, there's probably a little more. I could probably get in here and relieve a couple of things, just a little bit. But at the end of the day, this is a good, clean result. It installed really easily. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but Steve, if you want to just look straight down, you can show how well those holes lined up. Once I put fasteners in here, I then wiggled this around, marked them with a Sharpie, pulled it back off, drilled it. The last thing I did was drill for that Christmas tree clip. Okay, I want to show you some of the fasteners that I've been using too. This is some stuff I picked up at the local hardware. We're actually looking at bringing some of this in here and stocking it. Tapered head, Allen fastener, and I've got a plastic washer that accepts that tapered head. And you can see now we've got a nice big surface so that when you tighten this down, you're capturing quite a bit of the fiberglass, okay? So, and that's optional. You can use your stock stuff. This is just, you know, if you want to make it a little bit nicer. And once you're done with your initial install, it gives you the opportunity to really go through and kind of refine the whole install, you know, to get that perfect finished result. And just start to run these down. Got a couple of fasteners that we're going to use up here at the front portion of the tail section, right? And these are well nuts that are there. So I need to put just a little bit of pressure on this, forward and then down, just get this one started. This was a salvage bike that Jimmy had bought from an auction, so at the end of the day, he didn't really have all of the fasteners, so he had some kind of, you know, kit patched together, if you would, you know, and so we replaced some of that, but a little additional refinement is going to be needed moving forward. Once you have this all in position, you can go ahead and torque down. Remember, this is fiberglass, okay? You don't need to go crazy on this to wrench it till you hear it crushing. You just want to get some decent tension on it, like so, and then stop. This is a stock push pin that you'll find on the OE Bodywork for this motorcycle. The holes that I drilled, go ahead and take your time, slide it in there, lock it down, and look at that. We got a nice body line right there. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the seat. Seat slides back, make sure you've got it captured. We've got the stock fasteners for the seat. Go ahead and put those in place on each side, and then we'll install the two trim panels. Okay, now we're going to move to the upper fairing. I want you to follow this sequence. I drilled where dimpled at that fairing stay. I drilled where dimpled for the windscreen. I installed the windscreen on the bodywork. These holes here, the well nut is installed in the upper fairing bracket. And we're going to use the windscreen fasteners to hold the bodywork to the upper fairing stay. It also mounts here through the mirror mounts. I drilled that dead center, and I did the same thing on the other side. Just drilled it dead center. The ductwork, I did not immediately install the air ducts, okay? I did that after I got the upper fairing fitted, the lower fairing fitted to the upper, the deuce fasteners done, then I finished with the air ducts, okay? You could do that in a different order if you choose to, so I'll show you what I did to hold them in place. We drilled through the mount here, used the stock fastener to hold the air duct, and then up at the very front, I drilled, while holding this into position, I marked with a Sharpie here, and then on a corresponding spot on the bodywork. I drilled small holes through the duct and through the bodywork, and then use small cable ties to hold them in position. So now they are just captured in the bodywork. Do not, at this point, do not drill or do anything with the fastener holes that will allow this to mount to the lower fairing. We want to get the upper on the bike first. Okay, now we'll go ahead and get this over. The way this fairing is set up, you've got to get it around the forks, around the brake lines, so kind of take your time there, make sure you don't damage those ears. Once you do that, pass the tire. We're going to tip it back. The bodywork actually captures the coolant reservoir jug right there, okay? Got the coolant reservoir jug captured. Make sure we're clearing the trim pieces. Probably have these off the bike when you do it, make that a little bit easier. I have my ducts on now, so I would have to, of course, make sure those are lined up. From there, I'm going to take the driven mirror eliminators that Jimmy had on the bike previously. Already pre-drilled for that. I'm going to slide those in on both sides. I've got fasteners. They're going to pass through the windscreen into the windscreen well nut that is held by the fairing stay. Go ahead and snug those up. Okay, so you can see that's worked out really well. Now I'm going to raise the bike up and bolt the fairing to the frame. Okay, over here on the brake side of the bike, using that same fastener setup that I showed you. Tapered head with that plastic washer. On the other side of the bike, we actually need a spacer, okay? The same hardware store that I've been sourcing the hardware from, I was able to get the spacer that I need to bolt the fairing down on the clutch side. Okay, the spacer is about 25 millimeters in length. You can see how the bolt just slides through it. Same hardware setup. I'm going to come over here. With a little creativity, you could probably get that spacer to a point where it's just captured, you know. There you go. Upper fairing fits great. Now we're going to get the lower, and we're going to determine the best possible locations for the deuce fasteners. When I say that, you don't want to just, you know, willy-nilly install these things. You want to look behind it and see how close is the radiator, how close is the radiator hose, because remember, you're going to have the stud of the fastener through the other side. And what you don't want to have is that rubbing on a radiator hose or rubbing on the radiator itself. Over time, the vibrations, you could end up with a coolant leak. So before you drill these at all, you're going to put the lower fairing up against the upper and take your time and find the best spot. Okay, you can see I've already got the fasteners drilled. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Now, we're going to slide it up in. Imagine none of these are here and none of the holes are drilled, okay? You can take and drill this mounting hole back here just to help you hold the bodywork in place. You'll do the same on the other side. Now, let's slide it into position. With this setup, what you need to do is you need to dip this up inside the ear, like so, and then come back. We're going to grab a fastener and bolt this to the bike and hold it. We'll do the same on the other side. Okay, now we've got the lower just held up in position. The fasteners aren't tight, but I've just got it held up in position. I drilled right in the center of the bosses. Now, take time, mock this up, right? Make sure that you don't have any issues. So while it's being held there, I'm looking at everything, I'm looking behind, making sure we're all good, and I'm trying to find the best possible locations for these deuce fasteners. I want to use 3. 3 is plenty. You want to get fairly close spacing, whatever. So I took and marked here. I liked this spot here. I put a dimple there, and I put a dimple here. I then went to the other side of the motorcycle and repeated that process. 0 holes are being drilled on the bike. We're going to drill the holes over on the Bodywork box. I'm going to have a friend, I had Jimmy hold this for me when I did it. It's a lot easier with 2 people. I'm going to take this off. We're going to go over to the box. I'm going to kind of show you how we did it to help you get your fasteners to turn out this good. I don't know if I like that. I think I should show how good they turn out first. Okay. Okay, next step. We've got the 2 fasteners holding the lower fairing against the frame of the motorcycle up front, just being slid into the upper. It's holding it in place right now. Imagine none of these holes for the deuce fasteners are drilled. This is the moment when we take and we identify the best possible locations. I liked here, I liked here, I liked here. I took a Sharpie and I just dot, dot, dot. I did the same on the other side of the bike. Once again, you want to make sure there's no conflicts on the other side of the bodywork. Do not drill this on the bike. You want to drill this off the motorcycle. You're going to need a second set of hands here for this install. Jimmy helped me out. In the end, you want to be able to get an end result that is a lot like what you see right now. Okay, and remember, this is going to be painted. We're going to put the washers in here with the fasteners so that they're captured. If you look at this in terms of, ease of installation, that's pretty darn good. Okay, we'll go over to the other side, toss the fasteners in real quick. Okay, we're on the other side of the bike now. Just go ahead and show you the locations that we chose for the fasteners. And then I'm going to talk about how we got the end result we did, which I would say is really good. Okay, now we're going to show you how to attach the upper and lower, how to drill and install the deuce fasteners. For the Hotbodies race bodywork, we decided to go with the slide-on style fasteners. The slide-on style backers, they're the easiest to use, and I think these are going to be the best option for most people out there. Now I want to show you how you do this. This is going to save you a ton of headache, a ton of time, and it's going to help you get a good result. Jimmy's going to help me. This is his bike, so he's going to help me do this. If you're smart, maybe you get your wife or your girlfriend. A lot more pleasant than working with Jimmy. I like Jimmy, but I'd rather have my wife out here. Should you drill these on the bike?
You should not. Absolutely not. That's what I did the first time when I installed my first set of race bodywork, and it did not turn out nearly as nice as the fit of these.
Correct. Really important you do this off the bike. The only thing you do on the bike after you have the upper mounted is you just determine your conflict-free locations for those fasteners. Nothing more. We've done that. So we're over here, we're ready. I've got a Sharpie, I've got a backing plate, and I've got Jimmy. We're gonna go ahead and hold that right there. I'm gonna move the lower into place, and we already know what our body line needs to be like. We fit it on the motorcycle, and we were able to get a good tight body line, which is awesome. Pretend this hole that you see here is not there, and all there is just a dot from this Sharpie. I want to find that in relation to the lower, and then Jimmy will separate the two like so. I'm going to take and slide over the backing plate and line it up with that proposed location. No holes have been drilled. Very important to understand that. I've slid this down so it is now flush against the ridge of the bodywork. I'm then going to make a dot, boop, right in the center of that. From there, I remove the backing plate. We're going to grab the drill with the unibit. I'm going to drill dead center through that, and I'm going to drill a hole that is large enough that it kind of mimics the size of the hole through the backing plate. Let me show you that right now. I'm not talking about the outer hole, I'm talking the one where the fastener is able to go through, and you can see how that's kind of elongated. They do that on purpose. That tolerance is large on purpose. it makes removing and installing the bodywork a whole lot more pleasant, okay? Just to show you how that turned out, you can see that that is got a very similar tolerance to the backing plate with the fastener itself. I'll show you how that passes through. All kinds of wiggle room, so really important that you do that. Then slide your backing plate off. This may be one of the most important steps of the entire process right here, your first fastener, because every fastener is going to follow this one. We're going to build from the first one to the second to the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Very important that you go one at a time. Jimmy's going to be here to help stabilize this and to help me find the location of this hole on the upper. We're going to get the bodywork lined up like so. There's that body line we were looking for. Remember, there's no hole here right now. You then want to go from the back side and mark this hole. We're going to turn this over to show you what we would do, but do not mark that hole if you cannot see this outer body line. It's very important you maintain this body line and you have sight of it, okay? So what we're doing right now is just for reference to show you how we would mark the hole, no other reason. So we're going to get this held in position here. You can clearly see right now why you need two people. This is not a one-man job, not even close to being a one-man job. In a perfect world, it's a one-man and one-woman job. We're going to take and mark the back side, and you can see how this Sharpie's drying out a little bit, but I would basically trace through so I could see it. The Sharpie had a lot more ink in it previously, and it filled that up real nice. We then pull the lower away from the upper. I'm going to drill basically dead center here, just a pilot. I don't want to start pushing all the steps of the bit through, just a little pilot, just kind of tickle through it. I'm then going to turn it over, because the best practice for the final hole is to drill from the outside in so you do not push pieces of the gel coat off. I'll then finish the hole. It's important to note also, this hole is going to be a smaller diameter hole than the one through the lower. You'll notice a tighter fit with the fastener here. There's a couple of ways to do this, depending on the fastener kit you bought. Some come with plastic washers and retainers that'll capture this. Realistically, most people are just going to leave these loose and just pull them from the bodywork, as that makes removing and reinstalling the bodywork the easiest way is by having the fasteners out of the bodywork. So, we've got our hole drilled here. Our hole is drilled there. I'm going to install the backing plate. This is a one-at-a-time process completely. So we'll slide that over the bodywork. It's flush, perfectly lined up. We're then going to line up the upper and lower like so. This fastener can be installed. This makes it a lot easier now because we have one fixed point to work from. From here, take a look at it. Yeah, we're all good. We want to find that mark, okay? And remember, this is not about millimeters or anything. You know, if you're a little bit this way or a little bit that way, as long as you had good space behind it, you don't have to worry about it too much. But I want to find that mark. You could take your Sharpie and kind of dimple here, just so I can see it. We'll pull the fastener, like so. The next backing plate needs to be slid into position, kind of aligned with that mark, perfect. I'm going to put a dot right in the center, boom, here. Notice that is once again flush. Pull the backing plate. We're going to drill the hole. Once again, same size as we did over here. Once we've done that, we're going to attach the lower to the upper using the fastener we've already installed. Like I said, big advantage now, we've got a fixed point. Now Jimmy's going to hold this, we're going to find that body line. He's going to maintain visibility of that body line, so he has it right there. We'll then go from the back side and we will trace the back side of the upper going through the hole that we drilled in the lower to mark the location of the next fastener. Once we've got that marked, we're going to go ahead and disassemble I will then drill through the upper just like we did over here. Once that's completed, your next backing plate goes on. And once again, get everything lined up just right. Okay, now we'll slide this into place. And we're going to install both fasteners. Repeat the process. I'll find that body line. We're going to put a mark, or you could eyeball it like that, use your thumb. Fasteners come out. Backing plate goes over. This is definitely monotonous, for sure. We invested as much time in installing these fasteners as we did trimming up the tail in the end. And that took a little bit of time to get a good result. Slide it over, mark it. Remove it, drill it. Once we have it drilled, we're going to go ahead and put the upper and the lower back together again using the fasteners that we have already installed. Like so. Jimmy's going to get the body line, he's going to maintain visibility of it, and this does definitely get a little, this is awkward. Holding on to this stuff can be awkward, so he's going to want to maintain visibility of that. You mark it from the back side. We will then pull it apart again. Okay, we've got the drill out. I'm going to, once again, drill the pilot hole through the back side of the upper. Once it peeks through, we'll turn it over. I'll finish the hole so the fastener can pass through. Backing plate gets slid over. Like so, centered up nicely. I realize this is monotonous, isn't it? I mean, this is back and forth, and you're like, wow, I could do that a whole lot faster.
It's monotonous, but it's worth it in the end. I mean,
100% worth it in the end.
It makes all the difference.
And it is, holding the bodywork like this is very, it should feel uncomfortable and unnatural, because it 100% is. You've got it in a position where it just, you don't really ever handle it like this, okay? It's on the motorcycle, parts are rigid, so it's a lot easier. So now we're ready to flip it over, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna repeat the process that we just showed you on the other side. If you install your fasteners exactly as I've shown you, that is gonna get you miles closer to having a great end result. Okay, front fender, this was easy. Drill the holes. I drilled them right on the dimples. I did not drill the rearward holes initially. I did drill the ones that mount right to the front of the fork bottom. Drilled all those. Once again, you want to leave a little wiggle room there so the fastener can move around. I'm also going to qualify the fact that the fasteners Jimmy has me using are 100% not what I would use. He's going to have to replace these. I'll show you why. We talked about this earlier. The head is just too small, okay? You need a bigger pan head fastener in this location. You tighten these down on that fender really tight, you're just going to blow that fiberglass apart, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so before I drilled the hole in the back, right, I wanted to, just because it wasn't as clear as the ones in the front, I put all 4 of the bolts that mounted the front portion of the fender, I put them in place, okay? Like so. I then took a look at the rearward point and found where the pass-through hole was in the back. I marked it with a Sharpie. I took the fender off and then drilled accordingly. So those, I did not just fire the bit right through. I just wasn't as confident in the overall location. But you can see right now that the install of the fender itself, the fender fits great. There's zero clearance issues. Hotbodies definitely has this kit really dialed in. They've been sponsoring for years now. Team Hammer, right, which is M4, X-Star Suzuki. And this bike's been out since 2011. So they take that feedback they get from the race team, of course, and they use that just to refine the product. You know, little changes to the mold here and there if necessary. This kit is really dialed. This is a good kit. Most of the ones for the current bikes, I think they're actually all good. Anything I've installed, I've been able to get a really good result with. And this is another great example of that. So there you have it. The finished result is really good. You put a paint job on this motorcycle is gonna look great. It's gonna look every bit as good as that R1 does. That's the Hotbodies kit with a paint job on it. Bike looks great. I've always been happy with that for sure. If you follow the steps that I've outlined here, even if you have a different manufacturer, a different make and model of motorcycle, but you follow a lot of the same steps that I did to install this, you will get a good result. But don't think for 1 second, I don't care what bodywork you bought, how much you spent on it, that you're just gonna open the box, throw it up in the air, and it's magically gonna land on the bike installed. That is not gonna happen. No matter what brand you buy, it's gonna take work. Yeah, the Hotbodies can require a little bit more work. That is fair to say that for sure. But you can clearly see, and I've got multiple videos out there now, you can clearly see that each time I've been able to get a good result, and I'm not getting super secret unobtainium kits. We're getting regular kits out of regular boxes and installing them on the bikes. This install is good for the 2011 through 2018 Suzuki GSX-R600 and 750.